I can't understand such a basic thing, how difficult it is to make anyone understand that it's such a basic thing to give. And it's such an easy thing to give also, and still you have to fight every day for it. If you have had a major thing with some person and you be like, I won't do the shoot next day, there'll be a washroom the other day, but 2 days in a row, it's gone again. It's just, how come a production house can't have a budget for a female washroom? It's just...
So guys, in this next segment, this discussion, I want to talk about what's interesting in this industry, what are the good things you look forward to, and what are some of the challenges that we face in this industry.
Our job is not just communicating with people, but also making things happen and pushing for it. So no is never an option. Right. Like if you say that, अरे यार, for example, you will say कि यार यहाँ पे मुझे येलो गाड़ी नहीं मिल रही है. So that is, you can't say कि नहीं मिल रही है. Like your director will not say, हाँ ठीक है चल मैं कल shoot करता हूँ. Color change कर दे. Like find a yellow car. Yeah. I don't care how.
Or get it painted or whatever. Figure it out. Yeah.
Then you find like 3 other reasons कि भाई let's find a fucking yellow car. You know. Yeah. That's what you do, and that's what in life happens. And it is also problematic because you are so not used to hearing a no. And when you get back, अपने घर पे कि यार आज खिचड़ी नहीं बन सकती for example. अच्छा, that's a bad example. You'll be like, हाँ super. नहीं. For example, someone says कि चलो यार आज बिरयानी नहीं बनेगी घर में फलाना नहीं है. You're like, यार मिलेगा नहीं. How can it not be? Exactly. Your mom was like, shut the fuck up. Like नहीं बन सकती भाई. But yeah, in life, but it helps a lot that your life skills get a little more sharper. Like you kind of try to figure things out. Like again, in the industry, it's always like, figure it out, boss. Whatever it is. Right. So that's how you do. Like I remember there was a point in life where I was shy to make a phone call also to someone. Like even if I needed something, for me to pick up the phone and just ask them or tell them that, this is what I need.
I'll rehearse. I used to rehearse.
Exactly.
क्या बोलना है.
कि phone पे, but once you become a part of the direction team, your primary job is being on the phone and communicating. And you get so used to it. Now you're like, अरे इसको phone कर यार, we need that from him. So पहले I would be, the earlier person of me would be like, shit यार, can I procrastinate this or can I ask someone else to do that? Yeah, चल यार. Now I feel like if you're telling someone else, इसको phone कर दो, and they are behaving in a shy way, then you're like, okay, I'll call यार, relax, I'll figure this out. So that way, how like on day-to-day basis you see those changes, that you are very driven to making things happen, and that kind of, that is the plus side of it. The problematic side probably of what we do is also, probably the working hours and, the physical toll it ends up taking. Because, for those months or, years for some people, the film is everything. Your life is nothing compared to the film. Yeah. And that is accepted. And it is what it needs also. The film needs that. And if you are really deciding that, okay, listen, boss, I want to get into filmmaking. If you're coming for the glamour part of it, or if you're coming for, okay, this is going to be like fun, we are doing something so interesting, you will probably just be offset, sitting outside somebody's van waiting for them to come out. Your job would just be that. Yeah. And for that, you've come 5 o'clock in the morning, leaving at 9 o'clock in the evening, probably having like a 16-hour day. And again, waking up at 3 in the morning to reach at 5 in the morning on set. And that's your life for those 6 months. Yeah. Like, depending on what you are working in, which department you're working. Right. Like example, the production designing department. Of course, there are many departments that work a lot, but specifically to production designing is that whenever we make a schedule, it is always that this particular department has no holidays. Because when we have day offs on a shooting schedule, they are setting up the next set. Right. So this part that, the physically exhaustion part of it, the physical exhaustion part of it rather, is very taxing. Like you will see yourself age very soon.
Yeah, and you lose a lot of weight as well. I mean, just throughout a shoot.
Yeah, through a shoot, yes.
Actually, weight gain is also there. For some reason.
Depends on how your body reacts to stress.
Correct. And it's not a healthy gain. It's not.
It depends on whether production puts you in Marriott or in or in a low-key hotel. It definitely works on that.
Stress-wise, yeah. And the food, unfortunately, is never the best. It's like, because you're like providing food for like 400, 300 people, 200 people a day for 50 days, 60 days, 100 days or whatever it may be. So there will be some compromises made over there, which will end up, like if you are on that set for those many days and you are consuming that, of course it will take a physical toll on your well-being.
And also, I feel like to quite an extent as well, depending on how chaotic a shoot is, at times you end up doing, you end up skipping
Meals.
or you do like a rolling lunch. A rolling lunch is when you're on set and, someone brings lunch to the set and all of that.
Just eat or you don't eat.
Yeah, and even your lunch as well, I feel like when there's so much on your mind, you end up just going through it in like 10 minutes. You want to get back on set to figure the next thing out.
थोड़ा खा लेते हैं जिंदा रहने के लिए.
Just the taste. Yeah, but I've also seen this, like even it takes a toll and you're sick, even then you're guilty about it. For not giving 100% or taking an off. You just feel guilty कि अरे यार अभी ये कैसे होगा वो कैसे इसको कौन handle करने वाला है and all that. मतलब you can't take an off also without like for your own well-being. It's that much tolling.
जब तक कुछ extreme नहीं हो जाता.
But there's one thing about
वो extreme सबके सामने होना चाहिए.
सामने होना चाहिए.
Then it's very legit कि यार अच्छा ये
बहुत बीमार है.
He needs a saline, boss.
But there's one thing about just how a set functioning, where I know what you said is very true. Where you feel that you have this question in your mind, कि होगा नहीं होगा, whatever. You're accountable. But it's just so it's a very magical environment to be in, because irrespective of who's there and not there, the shoot always goes on.
It does.
Nothing stops the shoot from going on.
It does,
Yeah.
Like there's just one scene which just came to my mind, and we've all seen Big Bang Theory. So there's a scene where Leonard's mother comes to the house, comes to meet him for the first time, and he brings the mother to the to the university, and everyone is discussing and they're trying to make fun of Raj and this guy. What's the second guy's name? Howard. So the mother says, Leonard, you said that you're going to show me your lab at 1 o'clock. It's actually 1 o'clock. And Sheldon says the same thing. Yeah, she's right. You did say 1 o'clock. So your mind, because as he rightly said, it's a timekeeper. You have to be a timekeeper. Right. Your clock is always running in your head. It's 10 o'clock, it's 10:10, it's 10:15. So even if you're not shooting and when you come back home, it never leaves you. So I think that is a certain mental toll which really grips you, and you have to really tell yourself sometimes that it's okay. And I think that's the most important part in terms of mental wellness, that you have to take care for yourself. So yeah, that's one.
Speaking of mental wellness as well in this industry, what other tolls do you feel are taken on you on your mind through this? I mean, for example, it could be something like the way of working in the industry. I know it's not as professional as, let's say, the West is, or the way someone on your team or someone from another team talks to you, or the way, let's say, an actor's team might treat you or talk to you. Yeah. How does all of that affect you and like take a toll on you?
So basically, set life हमेशा सेट लाइफ पे क्योस रहता ही रहता है, मोस्टली सेट्स पे. तो जो भी होता है, सारी चीज़ें जो भी होती हैं, शुरू में जब कोई ज्वाइन करता है इंडस्ट्री तो उसके लिए बहुत मुश्किल होता है मेंटली, क्योंकि ये नहीं हुआ टाइम पे, इधर आओ वहाँ से ये जूनियर्स नहीं लगे हैं, तो मेंटली वो सब लेना काफ़ी ज़्यादा मुश्किल होता है. तो धीरे धीरे इंसान सीखता है कि सेट के बाहर जैसे ही आप कदम रखते हो ना, तो वो सेट वाली चीज़ें वहीं रख देनी चाहिए. अगर आप घर जा रहे हो, अगर आपको चैन की नींद चाहिए, अगर नहीं चाहिए तो वो लेके जाओ, तो आप सुबह भी वैसे ही आओगे.
But it's very rare actually, people differentiating between personal and professional life. या हमारी इंडस्ट्री में बहुत कम लोग कर पाते हैं, because आप एक्चुअल में वो काम घर लेकर के जा रहे होते हो. तो बहुत ज़रूरी है वो चीज़ें वहीं पे ही रख देना और सुबह वापस से रिज्यूम करना, मेरे हिसाब से.
But I feel that's again easier said than done, because क्या होता है कि बहुत बार तुम्हें दिन के सुबह के 2 बजे भी मैसेज आएगा कि अरे ये कल की रिक्वायरमेंट ये है, इसका क्या सिचुएशन है, क्या हो रहा है?
मुश्किल है लेकिन हो सकती हैं चीज़ें, मतलब जो चीज़ें
हाँ, for like something which we want to happen to this industry is this. We can look towards it like that. कि मतलब ये for the betterment of it होगा. कि जहाँ पे हमें we learn to manage our personal and professional lives differently, and we get more time to ourselves where we are not like bounded by some obligation. So I think that is something which can change for the better.
And one more thing is कि ये जो industry के hours है, typically in Bollywood it's minimum 12 hours and then oftentimes 14 to 16 depending on what's happening or who your director or
14
production
to,
or
I was
whatever
just
is.
telling them that they are combining 2 shoot days together now. So it's 18, 22 hours.
And a shoot day is not like an ordinary day of work.
Right.
It is hardcore, intense 14 hours of being on your feet, running around, getting things done, barely having anything to eat. Or just having one meal in a day properly, where you sit shanti se 10 minutes to yourself. So I personally, I'd like to believe at least that I've tried my best in the shoots that I have scheduled, where you kind of take care of the well-being of the crew in terms of, keeping day offs correctly. And I've also thankfully had some producers and directors who are pro that, who care about it and they understand. They have had that schooling themselves that, okay, listen, boss, you cannot not have an off day after 6 days of shoot. A 7th day needs to be an off day no matter what. In fact, I try to, as far as possible, that you make a day off after the 5th day of shoot. Or you keep a turnaround. If it's gonna be hectic, then you probably keep a night shoot and a day off after that, which is called a turnaround.
Right.
So, in terms of scheduling, this can only trickle down from the top. If the production house and the director are of that mindset, if the first AD is of that mindset, is when you will find shoots where people are like, no, we have fairly comfortable ways of doing things. And even abroad, that is the case. They have taken that upon themselves that, okay, let's not extend a shift. Extend a shift only, those 16 hours days should not be very often.
regular thing,
It should not be a regular thing. And even technicians, it is on everybody, especially every HOD, because the head of department has more of a say in these things. So if a head of department or for example a cinematographer or a production designer, if they take a stand for their respective teams that no boss, my team is not going to be slogging like asses for no reason. You need to justify why you need extra time. If that accountability is had on every level, then I think that's what will end up changing things, and it happens depending on who you're working with.
Right.
And it is something I personally I consciously try to accommodate as well.
It's very important also. मतलब अगर crew खुश है तो ही आपको
Yeah,
output
exactly.
मिलेगा.
You will see that because eventually your end goal is to make a good film, and it should be efficient. You will lose efficiency after day 5, day 6, because the energy will kind of just suddenly drain out. Suddenly you will feel that the entire energy of the crew is deflated and they start hating each other. Then you will start people getting irritated with each other, at each other. You will see, outbreak of fights for no reason, for the silliest of reasons. And you will that time think that this is no reason to fight. But the actual reason is something else. It is the residue of all this.
Right.
Which is why when I make a schedule and when I have to negotiate with production, if it's the executive producer or a line producer or the producer, I say that listen, if you want to shoot peacefully, probably you should have a day off here.
Right.
It cannot be that, okay, we have a calendar that we have to maintain, but we have to account for these things while pre-producing only. In pre-production, you should account for these. And they are happening slowly because we are inviting a lot of foreign HODs into our business right now. And they have set rules.
Right.
They will not work on weekends or they will work on alternate weekends. And
Right.
It's time. So when that happens, it is a relief for the crew as well, because then to accommodate what they need, you will end up giving the crew a day off accordingly.
Right.
So we are leaning towards it. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
But I think the gradual shift is beginning to happen because the people who were assistant directors and who have been assistant directors before us, their generation, they've all seen it.
Right.
So they all try to incorporate how much ever they can.
Correct.
Which is, also depends on the finances of the film.
Right.
In terms of cost of production. But they are trying to make it happen slowly and steadily. And it should always come from the top. It cannot come from anywhere else actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to ask Asmita is that as a woman on a film set, as a female assistant director, are there any specific challenges that you face, or are there any things that you would like to be different, going forward?
I'll tell my experiences only. So, first project, I think we were 2 women in a 160, 180 ka crew.
Wow.
So for me, it was just like, okay, this is happening. Then when you go outdoor, you have to share rooms. And then you just realize the other person is an HOD who has her own room. And then who are you gonna share your room with? So then you share your room with actors. And actors are not like, you want to share a room with crew, not the cast. Cast is a different ballgame only. So that was my first experience where I realized that there's something very, very wrong with this entire thing, where there are 2 women on set in the entire crew. But luckily that was the only project. And then I moved on, and then I realized, like, you also have seen, like, there's so many women on set these days.
Correct.
I have worked with female directors, DOPs, everyone. I mean, I don't think it's about our industry. I think it's about all the industries. I mean, that ratio is gonna be there only, but it's slowly improving. It's going towards it.
It's just time.
And yeah, I think it will just all be fine. Apart from that, one big thing is the washrooms.
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
Oh my god.
That is-
it's horrible actually. And I can't understand such a basic thing, how difficult it is to make anyone understand that it's such a basic thing to give. And it's such an easy thing to give also, and still you have to fight every day for it. If you have had a major thing with some person and you be like, I won't do the shoot next day, there'll be a washroom the other day, but 2 days in a row, it's gone again. It's just, how come a production house can't have a budget for a female washroom? It's just, and it's so necessary to have it.
Right.
And it's a personal experience. I was working on a set and I had a major UTI, and it was all because of the washroom only. And I obviously, again, it's your loss only, because I was in middle of a shoot and I had to take 4 to 5 days off. So obviously you are the one who's suffering here. But even that, people don't understand only. And I mean, yeah, that's the most horrible part, because you have to, like, literally stop your pee, or time it. Like, when can you go this after the lunch break, or go after the shoot, or oh, there's a cafe. I have been on shoot where people have said that you can go to the Gurudwara. Who's gonna go to the Gurudwara to pee? It's just very weird. I mean, that's the most basic thing you can provide to a person actually, and you just ignore that fact. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. That definitely needs to improve.
And aside from this, do you feel that as a female assistant director on set, as a woman on set, do you think does everyone treat you the same way as a man, or do they take you as seriously? Do you ever face a point where people don't listen to you as much?
See, I've always had like good experiences regarding these things, and it probably be the people I've worked with and everyone. I think everyone does, like, you have a voice there. You can have an opinion. People take your suggestions, and they don't take you like lightly or anything. They take you seriously. I think that is there. That is what I have seen in this industry. So you are getting no controversies here.
That I've seen, but that they are taken, like, women are
seriously.
Like, honestly, it's not really gender related, because especially in creative departments, it is very what the role is of the particular person, be it male or female, and what their contribution is creatively. Because if you are on that table, there has been a screening process of why you are on that table.
Yeah.
Like, before that, there has been a process where which has got you there. And once you're there, then your opinions do matter.
Right.
To the director. So I think there you will probably not find
Like,
people
I
being...
haven't seen partiality happening me because of my gender. No, that has not been there. As such, I mean, one good thing about this industry then.
I think the other good thing is that spot Dadas, if a guy asks them for,
It's the other way around. It's the other way around.
So many people have told me this.
It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they'll be like, "Nearly Maggie manga de."
So if there's a male, if there are two second ADs, there's a male second AD, there's a female second AD. स्पॉट दादा आएगा, सामने से चाय देगा, बिस्किट देगा, एंड मेल सेकंड एडी जब बोलेगा कि यार मेरे को
पानी पिला दे।
सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक इज लाइक, आई थिंक सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक इज योर बेस, कि सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक पता है, और सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक विल डिसाइड तुम्हारी वैल्यू क्या है।
बस
Luxury.
बहुत सही बात,
स्पॉट
बहुत सही
दादा ने
बात।
आपको सामने से आके सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक दी
दिया
है,
है।
you are important to him, you are important to the set. If not, then you are just a mere mortal कि हाँ कल को replace होगा, doesn't matter.
What है set पे, what है?
And girls को no matter who you are an intern, soft drink आ रही है तुम्हारे पास. Same thing in intern guys, like भाई खत्म हो गया, तू जा निकल.
Some bahana will come.
That will always happen. That will, I don't think that will anyway go any, like it is how, and it's not restricted to the industry. Honestly, you know, it's how life works. It's just that because it's the industry, it gets a lot of scrutiny because it's something that everyone is very intrigued by, curious by, that how do things get made over here. And because it's the industry is just exposed to, you know, everything, which is why you have the scrutiny that why these things happen. But it happens everywhere. It's just that you are interested that it's happening here.
Oh, that glamour part is there. Then what is happening?
Curiosity है.
Yeah.
I've heard many times कि दूध खत्म हो गया तो
चाय भी
चाय कॉफी चाहिए थी।
चाय तो मतलब so sorry.
हाँ, ब्लैक टी चलेगी।
Black tea. अब चाय पत्ती भी लेने गए। गर्म पानी
बंदा।
देते, अरे वो कूलर आया, गैस बंद।
Possibilities are endless.
Yes.
So is it has it changed after we become a first AD?
Oh yes. But then I tell that, you know, all the assistant, like I prefer that, you know, then the entire direction team or how many ever people you can tell them that, listen guys, treat people better.
Right.
That you do then.
Obviously, yeah.
Then you make sure that okay यार सबको same hotel में डालो.
Right.
It's all that. It's logistics. You fight for logistics on set,
Right.
and you fight for logistics off set.
लेकिन होता है वो जब सेम होटल्स में डालो,
जब नहीं हो तो मैं शिफ्ट हो गया. मैंने बोला चलो ये नहीं हो रहा है तो मैं वहाँ चला जाऊँगा. चलो ठीक है. So it's that. It's again, it's what you can do and what you want to do. There is willingness, it can happen. So yeah.
Something to stand for.
Yeah. Ideally you should.
Yeah, I've seen many
Circumstances
directors also
होते हैं
doing
यार.
the same, right?
Yeah.
They also take a stand. Ki, I won't live
That I
there
won't
and
be
my
there.
team live there.
Yeah. So these kind of logistics do take place. Like I'm sure people don't really realize, but because you are making 200 people travel, of course it's not easy for the production also. We cannot just see it from one side of it. Like you understand once you're like in touch with the production, the producer, and the executive producer, you realize what their limitations are. That okay, yaar, we cannot take everybody to a 5-star or a 3-star or whatever it is. So that is there. It is how logistics work.
Right.
You know, it is how you would do. Like, for example, it's a big shadi. Like if it's a, you know, Anant Ambani shadi, for example, or it is a big shadi for you to edit. If it is a big shadi of a billionaire, so you know, even for the billionaire, that billionaire has sent some people in a bus. He'll send someone in a Rolls Royce. It's logistics even in that level.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that. Then you know, producer hota hai. Exactly. So that's what it is. That's how you trickle it down to.
लेकिन काफी चीजें स्मूथली चलती है अगर प्रोडक्शन और डायरेक्शन टीम में कोऑर्डिनेशन अच्छा हो. बहुत ज्यादा स्मूथली. अगर उनके बीच में कुछ चल रहा है ना, फिर
अनबन है तो problematic.
बहुत ज्यादा वो एंड तक रहती है प्रॉब्लम.
As long as they respect each other's position, na.
Actually, the problem arises when the two of them think, the two departments think that there are different departments. It is one department. The moment the direction team realizes that you're actually a part of production team.
Yeah.
You know, you're not here to tell the director, so reactor को मत लो आप यार, मजा नहीं आ रहा है. बोल के देखो.
Get understand.
Actually, you'll be talking to someone at home then. Probably not to the director. But point is that only, that you are a production team technically. Like you can have a creative say if they ask you for it. But till then you are actually a part. Even with production, they should also realize that a direction team is not doing something for their creative needs.
Right.
You know, एक actor को 2 दिन बोला कि इनका घंटा फायदा नहीं हो रहा है.
Exactly.
They are like, you know, मत नहीं बोला ना, मत बोलो, film suffer कर रही है.
Yeah. So tell me one thing. So when, and it's a fact that like, you know, ADs are more in a production-based role than a creative role. So in this sort of a setup, how do you then, you know, define your creativity? How do you learn how to, you know, the craft of filmmaking? How does one go about it?
You become creative about executing a project. as a direction team person. The creatives will always, you'll have to go back to the drawing board, you'll have to go back to your pen and paper. It is not what you can probably learn, especially if you're on set. You can see how a director and a DOP and the actor, how the three of them and the production, all the HODs actually for that matter, through the process of pre-production, production, post-production, you observe. Like what you can merely do is observe. I personally prefer and even tell, even if it's my ADs, as like, okay, observe.
Right.
If you really want to learn, you should observe. Because when you say something, you're not learning anything new. When you listen, when you observe something, when you actually absorb something. And that's when the learning happens. You see how the director blocks with actors. Like I've been, very very grateful that I've been a part of some decent films with very decent directors. And you've studied I've got a chance to study their processes and how different they are. So for me, when I make something, you kind of see that, okay, probably this particular, blocking ke liye I can use what this guy used as a process.
Right.
When I'm prepping, I can use what this guy is using. When I'm giving information to HODs, I will direct it this way.
Right.
So that observing is when you learn. That is what the creativity should be, in my opinion. That how creatively can you observe?
I think
there are ways,
schooling only.
Yeah.
Like you're
It's
just
film school.
learning.
Yeah, basically a set is film
It's
school.
Film
Yeah.
school only.
If you treat it that no, my voice should be heard, it should come to screen, and if that is the expectation of being an assistant director, I would ask anyone who's trying to have that expectation to reconsider.
Yeah.
You cannot.
I feel like the way I see it is, you have, let's say, a creative vision of your own. Let's say even before you come into films, right? What you learn throughout the process doesn't alter your vision significantly. It kind of adds on to how you want to execute it going forward, right?
Yes.
And
it helps
also,
you there.
it's also important to know what to take from a director and what to not take
Exactly.
from a director.
Exactly. That's what you need to do.
Definitely.
Like that's the best part about it. That it's relatively low stakes for you.
Right.
It's high stakes for the director. And plus, when you see that a director also has self-doubt. When you see that, okay, we are talking about our creative voice and how it should be, and it should be definite. But when you see that the director changes his creative voice after every 1 hour or every one shot, and you see it's organic, it's not, and it adds to the film, it adds to the story. When you see that, you realize that, okay, you don't have to be married to something and be rigid. What assistant direction primarily teaches you in the field of direction and not production is that the beauty is in making it.
Right.
And how it's getting made. Okay, you may not have the expected resources that you need as per you.
Right.
But the fact that it's still getting made, someone is still putting X amount of money to make it.
Right.
It's not what you need. Probably you need 2X.
Right.
Someone's just making it in X. But at least you have the opportunity to make something. And how to make it happen in that and not be entitled about it. Is what you learn through assistant direction. Thankfully I've worked with directors who've been very kick-ass first ADs. And when you see them on set versus when you see someone who's not had the background of an assistant director, you see the difference over there. That your ability to manage what you don't have.
Right.
Versus just sitting and figuring out कि भाई अभी नहीं मिला तो मैं क्या करूँ, मैं बैठ जाऊँगा.
Correct.
That is the difference. When you're an assistant director, you're like, no, this is not happening. Okay, let's find another. जैसे येलो कार नहीं मिल रही है, okay, fuck it. मैं ये phone call garden में करा दूँगा जो मेरे सामने है.
Right.
That is the difference. That if it's not logistically possible, a person who's been an assistant director becomes a director who can figure out a way.
Correct.
The other one will just be like, oh shit, we don't have a car, we should just call it off. No, you cannot do that. You cannot afford it, technically.
Right.
So that is where it helps. And the creativity is always in execution as well. It's kind of misjudged. But one of our biggest directors have been kick-ass first ADs and associate directors. Like whether it's, I've had the opportunity to work with Ali Abbas Zafar. He's been a superb first AD. Like I've worked him, and Vikram Aditya Motwani has been a superb first AD. And Nikhil Advani, we've all worked with. He was the golden boy of first ADs. Like gold standard of first ADs rather, that And when you see these guys react to different things, and when you see them react to adversities on set, that will happen. You have no control over it. That will make all the difference, honestly. And, and how they react and how they make do what they have, and it ends up looking better. Translates to screen much better.
And it's such a great process actually. Like the idea will be totally changed and it will still be your idea. It's just actually magical because And that's what I have learned, because kabhi aise, if you get hurdles or things are getting changed, you see that you are having the same struggle your director is having. And they're still adjusting to it. They're still changing their ways to make their vision. So that vision can become something else, but that will still be your vision.
Right.
That is it. And
I would just like to add that, every film has a destiny. I strongly believe it, and I say it to as many people as I can say it to, that a film will always have its own living being, It's got its own destiny. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like even on set, you've written a script, you've prepped for a script. On the day something just, falls apart.
Yes.
And what you end up shooting, and when you see it in the edit, you're like, shit, this is so much better.
Yeah.
I
think
like that destiny, and once you start believing in it, like that's what I have always believed, because I have directed short films and stuff.
Right.
And there are situations where I know that shit has not happened as per I wanted to, or what I wanted to.
Yeah.
But when I made it, and when someone saw it and they liked the fact which was the limitation, which they're not aware of. Then you take credit. But the subtext is that.
If you see on the edit table also, you have not got the shot. You know that. In your mind, you know that. But then you just you go on with it, and it's something very different.
Right.
And for the samne wala person, they don't know that.
Like Jaws ka example hai. Jaws, if everyone has seen.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg was a 26-year-old. And he was supposed to shoot for 3 months in the water or something like that, or 6 months in the ocean.
Yeah.
That was the schedule, and that's what it was supposed to be. It's a very popular novel, which was then adapted into a film. So they had to make an animatronic shark in the film. And it took them 6 months or 3 months to make that shark. It took them some time to make that shark, like a lot of days to make that shark. And to test it out, they just put it in the water and it sank. It sank. It's 6 months of work just gone down the drain. And then they are like, we can't stop production for another 6 months for this to be mended, for it to kind of work properly. Please don't use mended. It's wrong. So for it to work, they cannot spend 6 more months for that, So they're like, what do we do? And Steven Spielberg is like, okay, we'll just use those barrels. And the barrels, the not showing of the shark for that entire film as much.
They created a fin. So it's the thought of the shark coming.
Exactly. And that's what became the
Because you never see the...
Exactly.
Like that's what added to the beauty of the film.
Right.
That, that's a true story. And the anticipation of it coming and the background music with it is what created. And that's destiny. That's the destiny right there. A 26-year-old coming up with this.
Which is always supposed to happen.
Right. Yeah. So one of the topics I want to talk about, which really affects us, is basically not having work between projects. And there are months on end where, there is no certainty as to when your next project might be, or you might have all the right contacts, networks, whatever, but things just don't align. So if you guys want to talk about that and just sort of, share your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think it's very tolling also on your mental health. And basically there's a lot of uncertainty. When you take this profession and 1 month down the line, you understand that ye to hone wala hai. When it happens with you for the first time, maybe your thoughts are like, what's the way out? And it's happening with you only. And then 2 years down the line, you hear your friends, you talk to them, and then you realize it's happening with everyone. It's just the nature of this profession. So whoever people who are lucky enough, they get next project quite early. And whoever are, you can say, more choosy or, whatever the circumstances. But there have been breaks. Like you can get a project in a day also, and you can get a project in 6 months, 7 months, 4 months, 3 months, whatever time. There is no, there's no designated time in which you will get it. And there's no platform to help you out also. So it's just your networks and your luck, when and where you will get it. So yeah.
Basically, the thing is that this particular phenomenon also makes you very guilty of taking a break. Like for example, you might have been in a 6 to 8 month of grueling schedule and working somewhere, and you might end up feeling, and you have a 1 month gap or 2 month gap before you jump onto something after that. But because you don't really know that you might get something after 2 months, you don't really end up enjoying that holiday.
That is so true. Yeah.
You are like, fuck, I don't have work. Shit, what do I do? How do I make it happen? Who should I send my CV to? You know, is it good enough? Is it not good enough? The self-doubt creeps in after like 5 days, 6 days. While you're on shoot, you're like cribbing. You need a break. I'm like, I need a break of a month.
Yeah.
And when you have that month, you don't really enjoy it. You're like 1 week down the line, you have withdrawal symptoms and shit.
Yeah.
And because normally where we work, where we stay, and what we are watching on Instagram, it's so much exposure of people who are working.
Continuously.
And you kind of see that and you feel more and more insecure.
Right.
So this break will never feel, great.
Exactly.
It'll always end up feeling that shit, I'm missing out on something. If I'm taking a break, I'm missing out. If I'm taking a break, I'm out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
If I'm taking a break, I'm just like FOMO. There'll be absolute FOMO.
Unfortunately, in our industry, it's like the only time you can actually take a vacation is when you're mentally okay, not having, money for that time.
Or
getting paid.
you're mentally prepared that, okay, there is something that's going to happen after a week or 10 days.
Correct.
Like between projects.
Which is very difficult because it is almost impossible to plan a vacation because you never know what is actually going to get over on time. Right? So
It never gets over
exactly.
on time actually.
जो शायद 2 महीने का gap होता है ends up becoming like a 1 week gap at times or not even.
So that happens. And again, she's right that sometimes you're lucky enough to, just jump onto the next as soon as possible.
Right.
And sometimes there's a gap. Like we've all faced it, that there've been a couple of months or 3 months where you're just like hoping that something comes up and it's not. And then you consider that should I not be this choosy? Should I just pick something up? It may not be the best, but you're like
You backtrack your decision ki wohi le lena chahiye tha.
And sometimes you're lucky enough, like you've been on a shoot, like you've wrapped up a shoot somewhere at 2 ki shift mein, and agle din you just join a new project. That has also happened.
So one thing.
For me, it's very this thing because whenever I end up with a project, I go to Delhi. That's my home. So I go there, I chill there for 15-20 days and then I come back and join something. Now when I'm chilling there, I never know how long that chilling will be, or when I come back, like can I take 1 more week here, or it's gonna be like 2 more months which are gonna. So if I knew that, I would ideally spend it on something more productive. Like being with my family, giving time to things which I am not able to give while I'm working, planning holidays, going on holidays. So just because it's not set how long it's gonna be, you're just crippled. You can't do anything. It's very tough, and it's mentally also tough for you, and financially for sure. Like basically you spend also according to that only because you have no clue when the next work is gonna come. So I don't think like you're not properly functioning. It's just like that.
And does something like this ever make you kind of second guess the profession you're in? Do you ever feel like, am I in the right profession? Do I want to do this?
Yes, a lot of times. I mean, I understood it in the first this thing only that this is not something which I can think of for long term. There has to be a second business module in your mind or something which you want to do, which is a side business, so that you can like really do what you are doing here to support it. So, and as a person also, I've always been very experimentative and everything. So for me, like opening an Airbnb or investing in property or doing something like that is somewhere back in the line just going on, that needs to happen, because when you retire, this thing is not gonna give you pension or give you a back support. It's not gonna be there. So I always think that there needs to be something happening.
It makes a mother second guess my career choice. She's like, यार, तुझे MBA अभी भी कर सकता है.
अभी भी chance है.
अभी भी कुछ हो सकता है.
And it's
And you're
you
like,
get open to taunts also. कि ये लाइन पकड़ने को किसने बोला था?
बोला था मैंने इंजीनियरिंग करने को.
So then you're like, so for me, this was back when I was 17. It was my dad had told me back then that and he had a very different idea of how it went. So he said that there might be a chance that you would have to give coffee to a senior. It could come to that. Saying that you want to be a filmmaker is one thing.
Yeah.
Are you willing to do the grind?
Yeah.
Are you willing to kind of go all the way?
Yeah.
And it can get pretty low.
Yeah.
So I still remember that conversation, and I remember the conviction with which I said that I will do it.
Yeah.
No matter what it takes, I will do it.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is. And that's what drives me even when there is a break, when there is self-doubt. And I remember that conversation with my dad, which I had. And even my family is very supportive. Thankfully, I do stay in Bombay. So, you have the family here, which keeps your mental health much more stable.
Correct.
Because they have nothing to do with the industry.
Yeah.
Especially if that is the case, even more so. And it's good to just, like, I have a niece and a nephew and my family, my brother, my sister-in-law, we all stay together. And that also helps a lot because that keeps your mental balance in check. For me, thankfully, because I'm not living alone.
Correct.
That does help me, not suffer as much of a mental health issue than someone who, I would imagine, who's staying alone. For them, it would be probably a little more worse than my situation. I can still manage those 3 months, 4 months if, God forbid, it comes. Because you have so much else to do, because you stay here and you have like fun distractions.
Right.
But then again, you do think that, of course, when better sense prevails and you're like, okay, am I on the right track? You question yourself, but you try to find the answers as well.
Correct.
That okay, this should not and cannot be the only thing. I remember there was a camera attendant who's worked with me on 3 projects. Funnily, back to back, we worked on 3 different projects. And he saw me like in my different projects, and he came to me one day and said that if you do the same thing for 10 years, then you're doing this for life. So just be careful of that. And it's just a camera attendant like Pathak ji, shout out to Pathak ji from Future Works. I still remember what he said. And I don't want to be in that space. Like, you should know when to take the next step. You cannot do this all your life. It's physically not possible. Because you are burning yourself out. It is that physically exacting. It is that mentally exhaustive. Exhausting. So, I always keep that, okay, that 10-year thing is still on my mind. That you don't want to be doing this for 10 years. Find something, like, and it will all boil down to, having a story to tell. And having the conviction of, making something. Because assisting will only help you with execution. No matter how, great it might seem to be. At the end of the day, you're executing someone else's dream. It is not your dream.
And so, when
you didn't join the industry saying that यार मैं एक दिन करण जोहर की फिल्म में फर्स्ट एड ही बनूंगा. That's not your dream. मैं को एक दिन उसके जितना अच्छा करूंगा or whatever that is. Like मुझे क्रिस्टोफर नोलन का फर्स्ट एड ही बनना है. Unless ऐसा को होंगे लोग, I don't know. People love him a lot, but still, that is not the quintessential goal. And if you want to get into either be a producer or a director, you need to then, after a point, know when to step out.
Correct.
Know when to take that leap. Know when to have that conviction of taking that jump, that okay, this was good to learn and understand the ropes and everything, but now until unless, and that will not happen until unless you actually physically make it.
That's true.
There is no way of very few people get the opportunity of actually translating into becoming a director after being an assistant director. Like, for the most part, there will be very few examples. Of course there will be examples, but those 10 people are out of 2,000.
So, one thing that I do is when I watch movies from like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, right? I look at the 80s just to see कि इसमें से मैं किसको जानता हूँ अभी, right? Who was a director or whatever.
Exactly.
And it's a very small fraction.
Very small.
Very
small fraction. And that is the thing. Like, not everybody can, until you have a story to tell. People will have faith that you can execute it, but to execute, you need to have something.
Correct. So, on that point, I want to mention something. So, when I've obviously been ADing and all that, and I had in between projects gotten into just working on ads, like a lot of people do, just to sort of keep the house running and whatever, to keep working, right? And I got along fairly well with like the ad production house and everything, and they were like, "Ek chota sa ad hai, we want to pitch you as a director." So he was like, "Do one thing, send me your showreel." And I realized I had no showreel, and I just thought about it, and I was like, 80% ADs के पास industry में, no matter how experienced you are, showreel नहीं है. So tomorrow if you want to direct something also, what do you have to show someone to have that person get that confidence in you कि
कर लेगा.
I think it's extremely important कि like in whatever way possible, low budget, big budget, whatever, like whatever resources you have, just keep making something, keep writing. I think writing is very important.
Or find a writer. It's very underrated. It's not like I've had this struggle that you think you can write and it's good if you can, but don't let that become like a roadblock to your mind.
Right.
That till I don't write, I won't direct. That is something I saw myself suffer with also. Okay, shit यार खुद की कहानी लिखने की वो होनी चाहिए. सही है, it's good. You should. At some point in life, you should.
Yeah.
But if you cannot, find a writer. I'm sure who wants to be a writer. Now that I'm actually looking for writers, that's my first. तुझे writer ही रहना है ना, तुझे direct तो नहीं करना है because I want to direct. Just to get the insecurity out of the way, find a writer who wants to be a writer. If you cannot write your own story, and just make something, make a shot if you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
But till you don't make it, you won't make it.
Correct. And it's very important actually.
I was actually just thinking about it just about 2 days back about the same thing, that as long as you know where you can get those resources from and you yourself know that okay, this singular vision is there, that's I think that's all that matters, because those resources will come automatically as you work on the process.
So, the point that you mentioned earlier, just about like how your parents do this or whatever, right? And as the industry, and I feel like the general overview of this industry for like outsiders is like ये खराब industry है, इसमें मत जाओ, इसमें ये होता है, वो होता है, whatever. But I feel like our life is very different. Like we are very sort of out of all the glamour and all the drugs, sex, rock and roll, if you want to put it that way, in this industry. We honestly are just people executing a project, right? More than anything. And I feel like explaining this to people at times gets a little difficult. And speaking of your thing as well, we said ki, when months go by, we don't have work, people start to, let's say family starts to say ki like, pick something else up. So just something I want to share. So as I said, I came here, worked for 5 months in ads, COVID happened, right? So the first thing, obviously the parents were like, Arey, to go to the chalega and all of that. So like, why don't you take up some work? Everyone's working from home. And the more time passed by, when I began to feel ki like, work from home hi karna hai. इसका कुछ पता नहीं है. I don't know when and if this is ever going to restart for someone at the bottom of the chain. So I actually began to like look at jobs and opportunities and all that. But there's a voice within you that feels like I just about started and I'm already giving up and there's got to be more to this or whatever, right? And I feel it's very difficult as well because you push to a certain extent. You push yourself, okay, let's give it like one more week, one more month or whatever. But it's important to also kind of know when to sort of stop. I'm not saying give up on your dream or whatever, but when to look at it from a different lens and be like, if this is not working out, trying to find the root cause of it and be like, this is why it's not working out, or how else can I, let's say, get over there? Like if ADing isn't working out, can I join, let's say, a studio role of sorts and then try and move to something like this, or anything on those sort of lines. So I think it's very important to be cognizant of those sort of things.
Be experimentative about what is working, what is not working for you. I think yes, that's something. And your creativity can just go from one place to another. It doesn't have to be compromised. It's just like that.
And I firmly believe in instinct. You will know when it's time. You will know when you have to stay. Like I did do a lot of corporate AVs and direct. I was directing shit. I was directing short films. I was directing corporate stuff and everything, and product profiles and music videos and stuff like that for YouTube and everything. But then one fine day you just realize that, I don't think this will give me what I need. Which is when I took that step that let's find another way. And you will know it. I think it's if you're listening to yourself, you will know it. And I'm sure that happens to everyone.
Like you get your calling and you follow it. That's how.
I feel like in this industry per se, it's just like if you don't have a secondary skill set, right? Let's say you do this for a while, let's say you're in your 40s now and you're still an AD. I think you've already put so much at stake that now you're like, ab main kya karu? I can't start from scratch somewhere else. And it's a tough space to be in.
It is, but you should never think of it that way. Like if you think it's the right thing to do, start from scratch. Like I started long format ADing at the age of 26. You started at 28. So you just go for it at whatever time feels right.
So this is something I told my mom when she was my dad kind of came on board in about 3 months. My mom took longer to come on board.
Tare Zameen Par mein dad villain tha na. They overcompensate. Mom was always nice. They will take the advantage then.
So something basically that I told her, and she was like, oh, you're like 27 right now and you want to quit, and matlab US, people die to go to the US, so the US छोड़ के ऐसे India जा रहा है, giving up your green card and all of that. And I basically told her one thing. जोश में मैंने बहुत कुछ बोला है, ठीक है, but one thing that I said was कि no one today is going to ask Raju Hirani if he's 55 or 53. Right? So no one cares if Spielberg is, let's say, 75 versus 80, right? He's Spielberg, and that's what matters. So you might think of it as, I'm giving up on these 5 years of my life or whatever, where I did something completely different to start from scratch. And that's actually that's not true. And to that same point, one more thing. When I started working in films, I felt कि जो मैंने अब तक सीखा है is like complete waste. When will I ever use Excel in my life? Again or whatever, right? And now I come, first day,
Damn.
first day at work.
Yep.
And the DA, the director's assistant, she comes to me. She's like, so these two, different schedules. I just want to you do a comparison of these two and see that all the scenes are in place in both, okay? All the requirements and whatever, the DOTs are sort of there. And she's like, you can take all day to do this because it'll take time. And check in with me if you have a problem, okay? And I basically go back to her in like 2 minutes and she looks at me like, oh, is there an issue? I'm like, no, it's done. And then she's like, what do you mean it's done? And I was like, yeah, I just ran like these Excel formulas and like, it's done. And she basically just looks at me like,
You should never tell someone what you're good at on the first day. Because I remember in that film, we made him do all the Excel. He's like, ऐसा करते ये call sheet बनाओ, ऐसे call sheet बनाओ.
but honestly, उससे सीखने को बहुत कुछ मिलता है.
नहीं, absolutely.
And I would have never thought that like my Excel skill set would fast track my growth as an AD.
Yeah, it did.
Because the thing is, initially, I saw it as, I'm doing all the Excel paperwork or whatever. But then I began to pick up कि अरे उस दिन ये sequences थे, ये actors थे, ऐसा था, more or less scene was written this way. So in that we use a jib. तो उसमें most likely jib use होगा कल. So I have to preemptively put that, and that gave me a very good understanding of how a set functions, the elements involved. So
I think nothing you learn will ever go to waste.
Exactly.
It can be the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
Like the silliest of silliest things.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is.
Exactly.
Like, and that always happens. I don't think anyone learning anything today should question why they're learning it. If you feel like you should learn it, you should learn it. It will help you somewhere.
Yeah.
Like calligraphy made Apple have, serif, sans serif, and that's why we have fonts. So Steve Jobs did that course. That's why. So it is what it is. No learning is waste.
Right.
Always,
So guys, having said all that, I just want to sort of wrap up on a certain note where, we all have these challenges in the industry, right? But there's still something that sort of keeps us going in this space, in this particular industry. So what is it that drives you, and where do you want to see yourself, or not see yourself, but where do you want to see this industry rather, let's say 10, 15 years from now? And what are the kind of films that you want to see made in Bollywood going forward?
I actually do not have a pinpoint answer to it, that what drives me, but I just love the drill. Whatever, however, waking up in the morning, those sleepless nights, the life on set, the life behind the set, the outdoors, everything. I think I just love the entire drill. I love this universe which I'm part of, and that is something which drives me. Whenever I think also of shifting to something else, I just feel like I won't be able to manage it. Manage it in the sense like I won't be able to make my heart accept it. That this rush, that is not going to be there.
Yeah.
So that is something. However chaotic this industry is, or I think it has made me more planned. It has made me learn that. How to be street smart, how to be confident, bold, and all. So all of that has come from this place only, and I see a lot of potential of growth here. So I think that could be the point where I see that like I don't want to leave this industry, or I really, really want to keep working on and grow. That is, that's what it is. And as far as like the movies which we want to see, I think we should personal this thing. I feel more emotion based movies, like which shows human emotions and families, that can do something great. I feel we have a bit less of them these days. I think movies have become like more and more and more bigger things and everything, and more VFX heavy, more action heavy, and all that stuff has happened. We are missing the small elements, more homegrown, close to art movies, very simple concepts, just like people laugh seeing it. Our family can sit together and have a show, just like that. So I think that's something which I would love to see, and I would love to make.
सो बेसिकली मैंने जब स्टार्ट किया था इंडस्ट्री में तो एक इंस्टेंट आया था कि मेरे को भी लगा यार मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ दिन रात भागा दौड़ी मतलब एक लेबरर को भी टाइम मिलता है खाना खाने का मेरे को तो वो भी नहीं मिल रहा है तो मैं क्यों ही कर रहा हूँ ये तो उस दिन मैंने ये सोचा कि यार मैं छुट्टी ले लेता हूँ मैंने बोला कि मेरा स्टमक इश्यूज़ हैं मैं स्टमक अपसेट और मेरे को हेडेक हो रहा है तो मैं नहीं आ पाऊँगा इंटर्न था उस टाइम पे कोई ज़्यादा मेरे पे बर्डन भी नहीं था तो कुछ किसी ने बोला भी नहीं लेकिन मैंने फिर सोचा यार क्यों ना एक बारी मैं अंडर निखिल अडवाणी मैं प्रोजेक्ट कर रहा था मुंबई डायरीज तो क्यों ना निखिल अडवाणी की जर्नी पड़ी जाए तो मैंने जब देखा कुछ होता है कल होना हो बाटला हाउस तो फिर मैंने देखा कि यही चीज़ें तो चाहिए थी मुझे तो मैं क्यों इन चीज़ों से दूर भाग रहा हूँ अल्टीमेटली तो मेरे को भी डायरेक्टर ही बनना है तो अगर मैं ये चीज़ अवॉइड करूँगा तो फिर मतलब या तो फिर मैं अपने काम से प्यार नहीं कर रहा हूँ तो वो जब उनकी जर्नी मैंने पढ़ी ना तो मैंने तुरंत कॉल किया कि मैं सेट पे आता हूँ तो मैं 1 घंटे बाद मैं सेट पे चला गया और उस पूरे स्केट पे मैंने छुट्टी नहीं ली
और उस दिन गाली पड़ी थी ना
उस दिन नहीं गाली नहीं पड़ी क्योंकि
तबीयत खराब थी
तबीयत खराब थी लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं हाँ वो चीज़ मतलब जब भी एक इंसान को फिल्म्स में आना होता है वो एक आग तो रहनी चाहिए कि हाँ भाई जैसा भी हो सेट जैसा हो खाने को नहीं मिल रहा है लेकिन हमें बनानी है फिल्म्स बनानी है कहीं ना कहीं और दूसरी चीज़ जो मैं अभी चाहता हूँ कि फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में हो जो हमारा प्री प्रोडक्शन है उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा कम टाइम मिलता है क्योंकि अगर प्री प्रोडक्शन अगर हमारा स्ट्रांग नहीं है तो आगे जितनी भी चीज़ें हैं ना वो ऑन सेट हों पोस्ट में हो वो सारी चीज़ें हिल जाती हैं अगर आपने प्री प्रोडक्शन में आपने फिल्म विजुलाइज कर ली है तो बहुत स्मूथली सेट हम एग्जीक्यूट कर सकते हैं क्योंकि आपने ऑलरेडी फिल्म देख चुके हो लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं वो लैग करती है हमारी चीज़ टाइम बहुत कम मिलता है तो बहुत ज़्यादा बार होता है कि हम बस लॉजिस्टिकली बस फंसे रह जाते हैं कि इतने जूनियर्स हमें चाहिए इतने सीन वाइज चाहिए स्टोरी पे बहुत ज़्यादा कम ध्यान जाता है हमारा तो अगर हमारा प्रेप स्ट्रांग हो तो बहुत अच्छे से एग्जीक्यूट हो सकती हैं चीज़ें और सबको सारी चीज़ें पता होंगी ऑन सेट
What do you guys feel?
I feel that, speaking just for myself, I have never in the past 4 years ever had a thought that I had to tell myself that I can't continue in this field. I think it's, call it the beauty of the work that you do or the conviction in yourself. It just drives you blind. And I think if you have that, and it's not just for the filmmaker, the community or something like that, but if you have for anything, you are ready to go any which way. So, and also coming to films which should be made later on, or I think even right now, we are in a very comfortable and a cozy place right now. If we say this current time, wherein really nice films like Lapata Ladies, you have Madgaon Express, you have the same times a few action films also there. So I think times like this should always be there, and producers, financiers should always see open opportunities that people are always ready to see those films. So
talking about films that should be made first, actually, I have a very strong opinion on that, honestly. I think the Hindi industry is suffering at this point of time. It is bleeding in a way because again, it comes down to emotion. What we normally compare, I think any film, its main aim is to engage, is to make you feel something. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, disgust or whatever it is. But if it's not engaging you, there's a problem. And engagement happens through emotion. Right now, what are being made are projects. Okay, that you have this hero, this heroine, this budget. If it's a smaller profile of a hero, heroine, a smaller budget. And in all of this, especially the Hindi industry, we miss the point of, emotional engagement.
Right.
The reason South Indian films work better, and we've observed it now, is because their films are rooted in emotion. Like you talk about Raju Hirani, this is the reason you talk about Raju Hirani. And there's a difference between Alage Rao Munna Bhai and a Tanki. The emotional engagement is missing, especially in Hindi films.
Right.
As far as we are making things that are backed by emotion. See, logistics said and done. People are not coming there to see कि यार ADs ने कितनी मेहनत करी, lightmen ने कितनी मेहनत करी.
Exactly.
The thing is मैंने यार 250 रुपए दिए टिकट के और मैंने साथ में दिए हैं 3 घंटे. तो इस टाइम एंड मनी का मुझे वैल्यू चाहिए. And that you can only value it when there is emotional engagement. There is emotion. There's a reason why a RRR works and a KGF works. You might laugh about it. Sometimes it might look not as aesthetic, or it might not look as, creatively.
Right.
It cannot look creatively great.
Right.
But like from a story standpoint and everything. But because it's backed by emotion, people are willing to give up on that. People are willing to okay, it's not technically superior, but bro, there is emotion.
Right.
You are making the audience feel something. If I'm leaving the theater with a tear in my eye, or a laugh at the end, or feeling absolute disgust at what's happened in front of me, if those emotions are being awakened, then it's a good film.
Right.
And that's where we are lacking right now. It's all about showing people that look what I can do. I can blow up the biggest things, and look, I can call the biggest actor to do the biggest things to do, and look that whatever have you may, that I can launch the biggest star kids and do whatever I want to do. But what's lacking is, that emotion behind it. You launch star kids if you want, if it's in a good story. Like Sairat, for example, is a budget of 5 crores. But the emotion that film invokes when you see that kid leave and there's just silence in the soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with filmmaking. It's just one camera there, a child walking over and red footsteps basically.
Yeah.
And you are glued to your seat. You can't move. You're it's a gut-wrenching end to a film. And that's what it is. That's what good films are about. Right now, we are not backing stories. We are backing projects.
Right.
And it's not that people will react to stories. It is not that audiences become too smart. No, it's not that. Stupid, silly stuff is, even if it's a filmy thing, I'm saying even if you're making a filmy experience, make it a filmy experience, but or give me that extravaganza and good music and good crazy, if you want to go that way, but then make it an experience. If you don't make it an experience,
Correct.
I think we are failing because it's supposed to be an experience.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to stay is so that one day I can actually not just talk the talk,
Right.
Probably one day I would walk.
Like this was saying Rudy's, walk the talk.
So roadies also made people feel something at that point of time. Every struggler is like, shit, मुझे रोडी बनना है because मैं रोडी बन के Bollywood में struggle करूँगा. But you know what I mean? That it makes you feel something. Even being a roadie for that, it's a beautiful idea. That okay, there are two people who love just going on road trips on a bike. Why not make a show about it? Because it made them feel something. It made us feel something.
Yeah.
And that is what it is all about, and that is what film should all be about. That's what it is. So yeah.
On those lines, I feel like for me as well, I think what kind of keeps me going is that when I quit my job in the US, I think mentally people around me kept using this phrase कि अच्छा तेरे पास इतनी degrees है, इतना work ex है, तो backup plan है. But I kept thinking that I want to think that there is no backup plan over here. Like if I always keep thinking I have a backup plan in present for me, then I might get complacent or whatever. And now I'm sort of glad that I know for a fact that I don't want to go back to, I always knew I didn't want to go back to corporate, but I think with time it even gives your parents or your friends or people around you that confidence, he's whatever, doing better, getting better in this field and all of that. So I think that's one thing. In terms of where I would want to see Bollywood or Indian cinema, right? I feel points you guys have made are definitely very valid, right? And obviously with that, I feel the amount of detail given to, let's say, pre-production or even post-production. I mean, I feel post, especially in India, especially your, let's say, VFX, barely gets any time. अगर movie का post 4 महीने में खत्म हो रहा है, practically that VFX artist is getting at best a month and a half to work on it, because the edit's going to take a good 2.5-3 months to get locked before you can actually start doing VFX work on it, right? And the same also goes for things like sound and things like that, right? And we have some brilliant technicians in India, Oscar-winning technicians, say Rasul Bugatti for sound, and I mean, so many more we've personally worked with, right? Even from a VFX standpoint, we have, I mean, 70% of the world's VFX is done in India as back-end, right? So there's no artist ki kami nahi hai yahan pe. It's just the time and to an extent the budgets, I would say, that hold it back. And I think more than that, also, I feel like the way directors view, let's say, VFX or sound in India, the view still is ki like, अरे अगर ये एक बॉम्ब ठीक से नहीं फटा, ये एक थोड़ा फेक लग गया, तो it's okay, because इसमें people have come to see Salman Khan and not, you know, the bomb blast or whatever, right? And or whatever, like people aren't, अगर यहाँ पे थोड़ा background music नहीं work कर रहा है चलेगा, because यहाँ पे ये scene में तो ये important है or whatever. So I feel that चलता है attitude, I kind of want to see change a little bit. And I feel like in terms of the content that is made, I really feel like India, it's long time due that we are at a point where we start being globally recognized as an industry. So a very basic example of this is you had like a Crazy Rich Asians that came out, right? When I watched it, that basically is a Karan Johar movie, right? And it's just all about market, like positioning and branding of a concept like that. And I feel like India, I don't know, somehow needs to figure out how to tap into that. We don't change our stories, right? We stick to what our core, what our essence is. If Bollywood is song, dance, romance, emotion, stick to it, embrace it, but find a way to have the world appreciate it than, you know, keeping it to yourself or trying to mold yourself to what the world is. So that's what I feel. But thanks a lot, guys, for coming today. I really appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you for having us, sir.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And I think it's been very insightful as well for, you know, our viewers as well.
For
And,
us also. Great learning.
yeah. And everyone, please tell our subscribers to
Subscribe.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, action.
Subscribe to
Right? Thanks a lot, and we'll see you very soon.
Yeah.